Howdy folks. Today I chose a photograph from online somewhere of this cowboy on his horse using his lasso rope. Lasso rope. Okay, I want to make sure that comes out right. He's got his cowboy hat on, and I love the atmospheric nature of this photograph. Not that many details on the cowboy himself, because he's in shadow. Rear lighting looks like from up there in the sky, and it's very hazy or smoky or something. I don't know. Could be either haze or smoke. Probably dust from all the horse riders. Looks like it may be very dry there. And he's riding towards the camera, or past the camera, because you can tell because the front of the horse looks larger than the rear of the horse where the tail is. So I have to assume that because of that fact, the front of the horse is closer to the camera. So even though I don't see the details of the rider and the horse, I can assume that movement is towards the camera. But in any case, I have my pencil sharpened, and I'm going to try to compose this photograph on my paper, just using the physics of what I see before me to be the means by which I make my measurements and find my proper proportions. Okay. Whoa. Well, first of all, in the image itself, the subject is mostly on the left side of the image. Okay, we can make that observation. And if I go halfway up the image, it appears that this grassy detail comes about a fourth of the way up. Okay, I'll remember that. And this side of the horse to about the front of his back leg is about, you could split that into two equal parts. Right about there and right about there. See, this line, this vertical line here, this vertical line there. So I can remember that. And then halfway down this image, about, is where the rear of the saddle sits on the horse. Okay, those are good measurements to go by. And then halfway going up from that mark, it appears that the top of the rider's hat is about halfway up. So those are good proportional measurements that I can use while composing this. Let me straighten out my camera. on this holder. Okay. I got my coffee made and I am ready to roll. Okay. I'm going to start using those visual observations I just explained to compose this picture. Alright, halfway down, make halfway left and right mark around there. I'll make a halfway up and down mark lightly around here. Something easy to erase later, but just light enough so that I can start making these measurements. Now, halfway between here and there, the edge of the sheet of paper, I'll make this little mark because I'm going to use that. And I'm also going to use this halfway mark from the top to this halfway mark here. I'll make another halfway mark right about here. I'm going to use that. And then the edge of the foreground brush, grass, weeds, whatever you call it, is around here from this halfway point. I'll make another halfway point right here. Okay, generally, the forms will be drawn from these measurements. Okay, so let me start. Horse's head is about halfway down the page. Of course, if this were a horse in action, there would be no possible way of drawing this because he's moving, and I would have to have a really good memory to remember all of these details. I'm not that type of artist. The subject needs to sit still. Okay, there's that line up there about where the horseman's head will be, and this mark over here is where that back leg comes out. All right. That's way too high, but I draw very lightly at this point in the drawing to make sure there's nothing set in stone, so to speak. I'd say the back of the horse is just under this halfway line, about there. The horseman or the cowboy's stirrup on this right side, the toe points to about where this line of brush top that we measured earlier is, and it's just below this horse's head. I'll go ahead and sketch the horse's head in a little more. So it's about from the bottom of the horse's head. Here's halfway point, let's see. Just eyeing it, say the horse's neck is right about here. And just sketching lightly so nothing's set in stone here. Okay, halfway between the bottom and this neck is his foot, and the toe, if if you measure from where the ear area is, the ears of the horse, straight down, that's about where his toe is, right around here. Okay, and then it angles about like that, his foot and the stirrup. All right. Now I came in with this neckline is. I'm just kind of guessing based on my observations. Whoops, I do know something. This neckline is too high. I just noticed. Okay, now the horse's head, the top of the head is above this halfway mark that we started with. Okay. But I have the horse's top of his head estimated right about here. Now I have the horseman's toe. Now, I'll show you. The top of the horse's head and the horseman's toe. As you can see, the nose or the mouth of the horse is about halfway between those two markings. Boom, boom, halfway. Okay. Remembering that, I go back to my drawing. Top of the horse's head to the toe, halfway. Horse's nose, right about here. See if you can think like this and make measurements from your subject. Drawing is not really that difficult once you figure out how to do that. You could draw anything if it sits still. Not a running horse, but you can draw what's in memory too if you can sort of make intellectual measurements in your head and keep them there. I'm not real good at that. Okay, I'm kind of... If you ever put a puzzle together, then you use memory of kind of the profile of that puzzle piece you're looking for. And so I'm kind of pushing this profile right here into my brain because I have this toe located, I have this mouth located. So based on that, if I could memorize this profile and just place it right where it needs to go, I can already tell this first time I was way off. So I'm going to erase this and try this profile again. Okay, here's his toe. Now, I think I drew the horse's mouth a little too high also. I need to correct that. All right, now let me try to put this memorized shape down. And I'm also looking at the photo at the same time as another way of trying to get it right. Okay, it's not perfect. But I guess it's close enough. And those lines are not set in stone either, so they will, well, that's too high there, I can tell. a way I could fix that is by looking at his head, the horse's head. Okay, if I use lines that angle like this, from the top of the horse's head down to his nose, I can then make a measurement that this part of the neck that touches his head above is about halfway between those two distances, right about this way. Boom, boom, halfway. Okay, so let me check that. Angled. Yeah, I'd say this is about halfway. All right, let me get a sip of coffee. Okay, now that I have this area, of the front of the horse and rider down, I can kind of also use that as finding measurement proportions. Okay. Again, this is subject to change because it's just for composing this drawing as accurately as I can within a given amount of time. All right, I noticed that from the horseman's foot down here, the stirrup, to this point of the horse's neck, which corresponds to about the middle of the horse's front of the face, where the eye comes down about halfway here. Right under the eye is where this point is. The back of his neck, where we see the silhouette, start seeing the silhouette of the rider, which comes up. Okay, from this point to about this toe line, the rider's cowboy boot is the toe right here. If I double that, this check, it should be the top of his hat. I can use this even. What should I use as a measuring stick? I'll pull out one of these tortillions. Okay. That point there to his toe, up there, should be about the top of his. Well, let me measure the photo just to make sure. A little bit less than that on top. So if I go, you can always use your, you've seen this artist doing this, using their fist or their thumb or something that doesn't change. You can hold it out in space and compare dimensions. Use this as your measuring stick. So let me go check that distance up here. Yeah, just as I thought, right under that fourth, a little bit shorter than this halfway mark. So the horseman, the top of his hat is right around here. Okay, now also the middle of the top of that hat corresponds, if I draw a vertical line from this point would be, I'm estimating right about here, top of his hat. Okay. So now that I know where the top of his hat is, I'm looking at the photograph to get another measurement. Just a second. Okay. Now the back of the saddle that touches the horse in back, the rear of the horse, is a little bit farther down than this point. So I'll just put this start of that area a little bit below this one. Okay, slightly below it, not too far. And I need to find where that starts on the rear of the horse. So I'm looking at the photograph. Okay. Just a minute. I'm making measurements. Looking at the photograph. Maybe I shouldn't do that yet. I don't have enough other details done. Okay. It's just a silhouette, so it's kind of difficult to figure this out. Not many details to use. Okay, I found a measurement I can use. The horse's head from the neck up here to the nose, I can take that measurement and this is a hard one. Okay. From the back of his neck to his nose, I keep that measurement. And from this point to the top of that, where I made the measurement, is his shoulder, his right shoulder, which if I take the top of his cowboy hat straight down right here, that's about where that starts, and then it curves down. His shoulder and arm curves down. And see this point of the horse, left and right, it should be to the left of this. So it is. It is to the left of it. That's good. And then the horse's ear, somewhere around here, should be the horse's left ear, we see, should be within the right of this line down here. So kind of pokes up into space like this. That's rough. I'll probably be erasing some of that. And the other ear is level with the top of this ear. May not be that high, but I can erase it later. Okay. All right, now got the rider's arm, and we see his fist where he's holding the reins. It's about halfway from this point to this ear. So this fist right here sits right about in this space, about halfway from here to here. Okay. I do a lot of halfways, don't I? All right, then he goes up his profile right about halfway from here to the neck. And then this comes down. All right, good. Now there's an angle to his head. Looking at the photo, it's about like this. Okay, so his head angles up like that, but within that angle, and that includes the back of his head, somewhere back there, his cowboy hat, I'd say, see this hat? From his shoulder to the top, this brim takes up about a third vertically, 1/3 of that measurement. And it's slightly down past, slightly above that halfway point between the top and the neck. Here would be halfway, about there. So it'd be up a little bit. Keeping that in mind, okay, I'll go halfway up from here to here. And I said that the brim would start a little bit above that halfway point. Okay, good. Now, it kind of curves up and back. And the back of his, okay, see where this goes down. About halfway from here to there, the back of his brim underneath is right about there, halfway between here and here. And if I extend that curve, which we would because the brim of that hat does curve around, curve back here, and then there's just a little tiny short space where the back of his head touches his collar, right about here. And then that angles like this over that way. All right, now I need to measure. I need to figure out the dimensions of the back of this horse as it relates to the back of the cowboy, and then I need to make this arm shape. So I'm going to do that now. Try to find some dimensions, and I'm just going to check. Some proportions. Against the reference. Make sure they're close. Yeah, they match up. Good. This is not going to be like a photograph and be perfect, but you know, if you're stuck out in the middle of somewhere and there's no cameras, you can always do this kind of preparation to make a pretty accurate rendition of the scene that you see before you. Like in the old days before cameras, learning to draw was very common. It was a common part of education because there were no cameras. I mean, think about it. How did people share what they saw? An artist was very important. Unlike now, everybody's an artist now. Just take out your cell phone, shoot it, and do all kinds of things with it. All right, I'm making a measurement here. On the photograph, I need to find the back. Okay, I'm going to see how far that is to the back of the cowboy. gotta find something here. Something that I can calculate. Okay, I got it. This, let me make sure. Yeah. The back of the horse's head to his nose, that measurement can be used to figure out where the back of the horseman is. Now, if I take that measurement, put the end of it on this ear right here, go to the left, then this point is where the cowboy's back is, the back part of his shirt. All right, it basically is a vertical line. But when you get down to, let's see, about where this fist is, just beyond that horizontal measurement, going down, is where his leg starts to flare out on the left side. Okay, around the saddle, down this way. Okay, here's the leg that goes down to this stirrup. And I can go ahead and fill this area in. Now that I have this area, I can use this area to make proportional measurements for this area. All right, so about where this, let me check, yeah, that looks pretty good. This point where the, under his shoulder, oh, I just noticed something. This shoulder, remember I didn't measure anything. I just drew in this curve for his shoulder, but I drew the wrong angle. It should have more of a severe drop, and then kind of angles again to about halfway where it starts to just fall straight down. Okay, got that. Now, using this point as a reference for this lower point, let me check against the photograph with my pencil. Yeah, that's close. It's not exactly this point. I'd say it's right around here that I should use for the reference point, going downward. And okay, here's the bottom of the stirrup, but that angles up. To meet the body of the horse, the chest of the horse. Okay, yeah, it would start right about here. Here's the point, that point I'm looking for. But now I have to find an up and down means of finding this point. You see, it's not exactly straight down from this point. It's just a little to the right. And I have to find how far up and down this point is. So, let me determine that. I'm holding my pen. Against the photograph. Just to make sure. Yeah. All right. From the top of this ear to here, use that as a measurement. I'll get my tortillon. All right. Now, if I do use that measurement, I already forgot what I was measuring. Okay. From there to there should be about from here to this point. So, yeah, right about there. That's the point I was looking for. this point where the angle of the horseman's leg and the chest of the horse kind of meet, where they meet. Okay, now let's see if I can sketch in this shape of the horseman's. Well, here's the bottom of his. What do you call those pants that protect you from weeds when you ride into tall weeds and things, like all the around where I live here there are goat heads, and they will just puncture your bicycle tire. They are so sharp. So it's no wonder that cowboys needed these leather, the word's coming to me, leather chaps, to protect them from just being beaten up by these horrible goat heads and other types of plants. Okay, let's look at it. The stirrup, it looks pretty bad to me. I'm way off on the angle. Let's see. Making a measurement here. All right, I'm gonna make sure this measurement here from ear to nose should be about where from that point we used earlier to right about there should be where his chaps, coming down where his chaps fall against his cowboy boot. And the cowboy boot, I could have just gone over here from this point to the right. It's about the same level, maybe a little higher. And then that scoots down to the right a bit, and then the toe of this boot is right underneath this ear and the mouth, like that, right about here. So yeah, it's looking better, I think. And it kind of angles straight down, even though you can't see that big heel on his cowboy boot. And if you've seen cowboy boots, they usually have big, tall heels, wooden heels on them, traditionally. But this is covered up by the stirrup. And you can see his little bit of a spur back there, which I'll detail later. Okay, now this seems like it's too far in. This line here, his chaps. So I'm going to bring it out a little bit. And there's something on his chaps, like those little leather straps that kind of decorate it for some reason. If you've seen those. Okay, now I'll go back up here to his shirt. I'd say from this point where his hip starts angling out to fit around the saddle. From there to the top of his hat, go halfway. Boom, boom, halfway, right there. That is where his lassoing, roping arm starts coming out, and it comes out just about straight. Now I need to find out. I'm measuring on the photograph. Okay, from the back of his shirt to the front, to the right side of his shirt, his body. Let me make sure. Yeah. If I use this measurement and take it up here where his head, back of his head, goes, okay, where the back of his head is, this line over here, this vertical line I've measured, is where the outside of his forearm shape reaches out to. So I can I can go down like that. Kind of just eyeing it here. I got the major dimensions figured out, and I just put in a little bit of detail for the profile of it. And then hopefully my guesstimation will be close. Okay, now his hand that he holds the rope with, it's not straight like this, it's angled. You ever hear cowboys talk about how they throw the lasso to rope the dogies? It's all in the wrist. Okay, and the wrist corresponds to the top of this brim. I'm way off. Okay, so it kind of curves up like this. He's got that wrist action going, and this line, extend this line upward, space. This curve of the top of his hand, this part, he's got this pointy finger out too, and the rope is going down through here. Okay, now it kind of curves like this. It's good to have your hand, if you have a hand or two, to help you figure out how to draw hands. Sometimes. Anyway, this line that extends along his forearm upward into space intersects with that pointy finger. And the bottom of the hand right here corresponds to the top of his hat. So it's right about here. And then this angles up a bit. Okay. Let's see. It's getting there. But this profile needs a little work. It's not totally straight from the elbow to his neck. It goes kind of straight across. Then where the shoulder is on his shirt starts going up a little bit. Kind of like that. And I noticed something else. The angle of this brim, I have it going. It's too much like this. In the photograph, it's more like this, not like this. So, let me fix that too while I'm around that area. And I noticed something else. This measurement, the back of his head, I have drawn too far to the left. It needs to come back to the right a bit. So let me figure out where that point is. I'll make some hand measurements with my pen. Okay, no, his chest, his body, upper body measurements are pretty close. So I'm going to check that somehow. Okay, if I make this chest measurement from left to right, hold it up here. Try it one more time just to make sure I have the right measurement. Yeah. Okay, this distance from chest, left and right, bring it up here to his arm, which I think is correct in its proportions. Hold my finger there, checking. Yeah, it looks like I calculated it right. I think his hat just needs to curve up more this way instead of straight left and right. So this point here, where his face is, and the hat, is a little bit lower than this back of his hat. So yeah, already looking better. Now this is a big curve, this part of this brim. All right. Right now he looks bigger than the horse, but I haven't drawn the horse yet. At least the greater part of him. Okay, now we figured this point before. Not real critical back here. It's not too much detail. I'm just going to bring the back of the horse down. Its angle's kind of down this way. Now while I have the rider in mind, let's see if I can, yeah, I found a good way to measure the lasso. Where the lasso is in space. Okay, I take, let me make sure. Yeah, this is good. If I go from his arm to this side, that's about the width of the lasso in space. And the lasso starts right here. And let me make a mark over here. A horizontal measurement. Okay. Now it kind of, he's swinging the lasso or holding it up there. And it's kind of suspended up above him in space. And it's also kind of an oval shape. But it's not perfectly oval. It's, if you made an oval shape, right about where his knuckles are here for the end, and then just kind of made a triangle up above, you'd have that shape. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make an oval shape, which the bottom of which corresponds to where his wrist, the bottom, where his wrist is here. That's about the bottom of this lasso shape. So it needs to come down here a little more. And curves up into his little pinky here, where it goes through his wrist. I mean his fist. Wrist, fist, they rhyme, don't they? Okay, that goes up there, and there's like some knots. Let me check where those are. And I got to do a vertical measurement to make sure I have this lasso correct. All right. Yeah, I got a good observation to use for that. From here to here, that distance, use the tortillion, would show you I think I measured from his elbow to there. Might be a tiny bit high. Okay. Yeah, that's where that nod is. And it kind of comes down like this. And the oval would be like this, a perfect oval, but I'm going to angle up to make that triangle I spoke about earlier, where this angles up. All right, let's check that. And just eyeing it, I'm thinking maybe, I'm wondering if his hand is too big. I haven't really measured the size of his hand yet, but it looks like it may be bigger, too big compared to his head. I'm going to try to make a measurement so I can check that. We want that to look as accurate as possible. So, let me get something to measure that tiny little area with. Well, this is a good thing about our gadgets. We can expand them. You know, if I need to make a measurement, I can make it bigger. Let me see the width of his hand there. What can I compare it to? What can I compare it to? Well, it should be, of course, about the width of this fist here. So that's what I'll do. I'll just try to get it about as wide as that. So I'm going to have to do some erasing. I made it too big. And I think it's the top that looks too big. All right. Now let me look. I'm just going to eye this. The width of that fist is about, from there to there, should be about the same as this to this. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. But I think this will look better. Sometimes your sense of perception is right. In this case, yeah, I guessed that his hand up here was too big. I think it was. Yeah, and that also fits in with this idea of the oval and the triangle. That looks a little better to me. All right, now let me finish the bottom of the horse before I start detailing things, which will be pretty easy because it's basically just a silhouette. There's going to be a lot of detail in the grass, or goat heads, or whatever they are, down here, weeds, and then some outlines of some pines or fir trees up here, and a little bit of a tree line in back, and then a glowing sky, which I probably won't draw anything for that. Just white paper. I'm going to have to do a lot of smoothing with my tortillon because it's so hazy, with mainly just profiles of things. All right. Let me get this horse shape done. Around where I live, you see a lot more horses than you do dogs and cats. I love it. All right, let's see. Okay, now this point here, that point there is where the horse's front legs start to come down. This is kind of a triangle. This one back leg combined with these front legs here looks like one big mass of triangle. Silhouette, dark silhouette. They all kind of meet together in this space in time. So I'm going to try to replicate that. And let me check the vertical placement of that. I'm going to make some pencil measurements to see if I'm very close. Okay, I got a good measurement. From, let me make sure. Okay, from this point to this point, I take this measurement let me check again. Got to make sure. Yeah. All right. From the top of his toe on the boot to this part of the horse, if I go down here, that mass I was speaking about of the profile of those legs should be right about, go left and right about there. So I make a point there, which is this point right there. So I measured this from there to there, and angled it down to use it for this measurement is the same as this measurement. From here to here is the same as here to here. Okay? So I made that measurement here. And then that triangle I was talking about is kind of like, I don't know. I don't have the exact angle in numbers, but I can kind of use my pen angle in space and bring that over to here, and it should be about this side of the triangle is about that angle, and this side of the triangle is about this angle. Not all the way down to the bottom of the page. Those legs would be too long. And then this one lone leg, back leg, the horse's left leg that we see, curves down a bit here. And where the horseman's boot is, if you bring that over to the left, it's about where the large part of the horse's powerful legs meet right here, left and right. Okay, and then they start being embedded into the tall grass, this back leg. So about all we will see of that back leg is, it kind of makes a triangle in itself, which ends where this boot is. So let me take the boot area, go over here. Now we have the bottom of that triangle. Okay. Yeah, it corresponds pretty well with my previous measurements of this back there. And, all right. And I can tell you, I'm measuring some horizontal spaces on this photograph. Sorry, sometimes it takes me quite a while to get the right ones. Something I can use, something that looks accurate from my subject that I can transfer onto my drawing. As the Brits say, the drawing. Okay, from the nose to the back of the head would be the distance from this point to where this other back leg is attached to the front legs down below. So I have this measurement here. I'll bring it down here from this point over. I'll make a little mark. All right, now that tells me where this back right leg of the horse meets up with these two front legs, which are still angled down. All right, so this point that I'm talking about, that I'm trying to find on my paper using these measurements. Okay, now this point up here, up and down, if you extend over to the right horizontally, meets up about where his toe is. So that's good to know. Here's the toe, go over to the left, here's that point, because I measured, oh no, here's that point. Is it? Let me check again. Yeah, this line. Okay, toe over here intersects with this line. And that shows me where the other back leg starts. Horses have fascinating muscles and structure. They're just so beautiful and massive and powerful, and I think it's my favorite animal in all the universe. Of course, I haven't seen all the universal animals. Not yet. And can barely make out part of his stirrup on the left side, which is just below this outline of the back leg back here. And it is also above this toe vertically, so it's up here. And then this meets up with this leg that we already found. And then, gosh, we're about done with this horse and rider outline. This angles down like this some more. There's something that flaps down here, probably part of the saddle or something. And then this horse, you can see the horse's muscles bulging like this. And they kind of fade into the grass below. And at this point, we see the front leg, the left front leg, angled down, about the same angle as this leg. Okay, now where these two horses, there's a gap between these two horses' front legs. But one is, I'd say this left one is moving forward like this, and this front leg is moving backward like that. That's why they make a triangle from this angle of our perception. So now I need to check and see how far down these legs should go where they start meeting the grass from our point of view. Let me make a measurement here. Okay. I'm talking about from here to here where they start fading into the grass. If I do this, yeah, a good old horse's head has been a good measuring stick for me in this whole drawing. If I use the length of his head, come down here, from this point downward, I find that right about here is where those legs start hiding in the grass. I also noticed that using the length of the head, this can be time consuming sometimes, you can see. All right, the length of the head, I bring that distance, start at this toe, and this is one end of that measurement to this part of the pencil. That's where that gap is I was speaking about, where the chest, there's some space, the surface that we see between the front legs. And it's right about here, left and right. And it corresponds with the bottom of his stirrup. So right about here. All right. That's basically it for the horse and rider. I can start filling that in. And then I'll do the background. Here's some of his tail. I'm not worried about the details because it's basically all profile. It's kind of, the tail just kind of feathers all over the place. Let me lighten this a bit. I don't want to entirely erase it, but I'm just using the shape that we created for the final drawing. Doesn't need to be very dark. All right, I can go ahead and sketch that in using the photo reference. See how this graphite pencil makes a really nice dark line. It's gonna make 4 knuckles. This pointy finger he's got sticking up in the air for some reason. I've never lassoed anything, but I've seen a lot of cowboy movies, westerns. I imagine there's a reason for that. All right, now I can start filling in this profile because it's mostly just dark. He's in the shadow on this side. Now this rope, it's attached. This is attached to something, and the rope starts right about here across from his bill. And it angles down to about here. So I'll just draw that in. It's nice and tight. I'm not sure where it comes from. Maybe down here. You see some rope. Right about here, that's probably his reins. So he's holding that rope somehow with his left hand, I think. Which is right here. I think it's this rope right here. There's an old saying I like. A scientist is an artist, and an artist is a scientist. So if you want to be good at art, try to imagine the science involved with all these things that you see. Study them if you have to. Read about them. It helps. In this part, the detailing part, I think an artist can put a little bit more of himself into the drawing. A little more freedom as far as how you want to finish it. Maybe some artists here would like to draw lines instead of a solid shape like I'm doing. That's up to the artist and the artist's inspiration, individuality, develop style, and all that stuff. I hope I don't have to erase any of this because it's really dark. But it's okay. Art does not have to be exact. I mean, I've seen some works of art done by elephants that are worth many times over anything I've done. By just pushing a paintbrush around a big canvas. But that's life. All right, let's see. This is all solid profile or shadow, which is why I really like this photograph this person took. It's a beautiful photograph. Atmospheric perspective, because the background kind of fades away the further it gets from the camera and the viewer. There's that left hip, and he's in his saddle. Okay, here's that horse's ear. one ear looks wider because they're set on his head at different angles. Of course. There's some more reins that come down this way, some more ropes and controls and stuff. So let's concentrate on getting these profile lines as correct as I can. They're not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. But what I'm showing here is that once you get the proper proportions down on your paper, the rest can be a real breeze. You know, you can do this finishing real quickly if you want to, and it'll still look like the subject. Horse's legs, where they meet over the grass that he's running over, create more shadow right in that area where the grass is. So the legs and the grass kind of meld together in this area because of the shadow of the horse. The legs are very dark in shadow, and then the body of the horse itself makes this part of the grass more dark. You can see it's darker than this grass over here, which doesn't have anything above it. All right, I've got the whole outline of the horse. I can quickly just, let me use the side of my pencil, graphite Koh-i-Noor pencil, which I love. It's very versatile and strong. I don't worry about breaking. This is so thick in diameter, I don't worry about it breaking much. Haven't broken one yet. And it can produce a very nice dark line. I don't want to go over that gap down there. I'd have to erase. I'm not using much finesse on this part. I'm just getting this thing as dark as I can. All right, see how it looks compared to the original. It's okay. At least a person could look at it and say, hey, that's a cowboy riding on a horse. All right. Now, the foreground and the background being what it is, There could be a little more variation with that, because if the grass were a little taller than it is, or if the trees were a little taller or shorter than they are in the photo, they would still look like trees and weeds. So I'm not going to be real particular. This looks like some of that nasty brush I was telling you about. And it's not real dark. I think I'm drawing it too darkly. It's kind of encompassed in dust, which has faded it, made it look lighter. So I'm going to start doing that lighter here. Some weeds poking up into the space here. This is where you can put in more of your own style. I need to draw a profile of these trees up above. I'm just going to kind of outline some shapes that intersect this lasso. I can do it hurriedly. It's not going to matter that much. I like to improvise and come up with my own shapes sometimes. It's fun. That's why I like art. It's fun. There's a lot of freedom in it. This will just be a really light shade that the dust has almost completely covered up. And then you got the glow of the sun from above, and that just fades right into these back trees. You can hardly see the trees at all. And there's a nice balance in this photo composition, because you have the horseman on the left, on the right. It's balanced by some nice soft imagery. You have a few weeds that poke up, and placement of this one weed, for instance, this prominent one here on the right half of the image. If I went from these front legs to the edge of the canvas, that would be about halfway. So that's what I'll do. Here are the front legs, about halfway from there to the edge, right about here. That's where I'll put that prominent weed. It sticks up to about where this little these leather straps are floating up into the air. It goes up almost that high, but it looks like a nasty weed. There's some nasty weeds around here, like this. I mean, they would, if you got caught up or wound up in these weeds, you would have blood all over you. You don't want to mess with them. I think a lot of them turn into tumbleweeds after they dry up and float all over the place. And there's some grass here too. It's not all evil weeds. I can develop these a little more later. All right, let me get a sip of coffee first. A little more detail down here. A lot of improvisation going on here because I just want to get something down here, some details that look somewhat realistic. I might do this in 2 or 3 phases. First, I want to get some of these finer details down here regarding the grass and the plants. The tail, feathers out all over the place. some large areas now. Dark shadow down here, as I explained earlier, because of the shadow coming from the horse's mass, blocking that light, which is really diffuse and scattered because of all the dust in the first place. Very hazy picture. For spreading and smearing, I usually use the tortilla, or blender stump made from wrapped up paper. However, there's so much that needs to be smudged and smeared in this. I may just try using my finger and then washing it off when I'm done, because the finger is a lot softer, and it's, in comparison to the tortilla, much moister. Much moister? Is that a word? Much, or proper usage? It's moister. More moist. I have to check my book of etiquette. All that stuff. Okay, this is not totally dark. But my fingers are going to get kind of dirty, I think, especially down here in the grass. I'll fill in some of this hazy profile of the trees. And you can tell it's dust because the trees up here are darker than down here, which means this light colored dust is thicker. The gravity has pulled it down towards the surface of the earth. So there's more of a concentration of the dust down here than there is up in the sky. Except right here, I think a lot of horses have ridden through here, or cattle or something, and really stirred this dust up here in the middle of the image. This is very rough. Very rough rendition on this background. But I don't really care. It's just to get the mood of the image. Just want to get that down. I'm not too worried about the detailing of all this stuff. This is going to change pretty soon when I start smudging. Darker above, and then it really fades into the dusty ground area. So let me see what my finger can do. Oh yeah. Look how dirty that finger is. And the good thing about the finger is you can actually feel where it's going on the page. pressure sensitive, as digital artists would say. That can just fade up there like it should. See how it gets darker up above? I can barely see those lines after I smudge them with my finger. Almost has kind of an airbrush quality when it does its job. This needs to be much darker. I'm going to turn this page sideways. An art teacher might say, don't turn your page sideways. What the art teacher doesn't see or know won't hurt the art teacher. It's just kind of hard to reach with this holder down here. Okay, now this the foreground, where all this grass is really near the camera, there's not a huge concentration of dust between the camera and this part of the subject yet. So it needs to be a little darker. Pressing down really hard to get that to mix. Even this should be a little faded, this tail. One thing is, I've got too much wild lines going up there. That needs to be more defined. Rump of the horse. That's better. This could stand to be a little more solid. I can do that with more strokes here. Definitely needs some more definition on his head and his hat. Just using my sense of perception and trying to just eye these things, eye these little details, and see if I can get them more what's the word, accurate, or more easily defined for the viewer, so you know, if you see an outline, it looks like an outline, not something hazy or undefined. It needs to be defined so the viewer can easily construe what it is. Drawing accurately is good for the viewer. The viewer knows what it is. It does not take much translation or explanation. The viewer can see what it is and just know. Using his or her own eyes and senses. All right. Okay. It's getting there. Don't need much darkness in here at all. It's very faint because of all the dust. But I do need a little bit of shade in there. Let's see how the tortillon does in comparison to my finger. See, my finger does a lot better job. When you need a real heavy amount of pressure and coverage, the finger does great, as long as you can wash it. I wouldn't want to lick that off either. Who knows what it might do to a person. Just trying to blend this as much as I can. The only really clear white part of this image is right here where the sun, there's sun back here, I think just above the horizon, filtering through the really hazy sky that at least is near this photograph's lens. Who knows, it might be real clear sky beyond that. I get enough of this graphite on the tip of my finger acts like its own piece of chalk, which is kind of what I want, because it makes a nice big spread out swath compared to the edge of this graphite pencil. Now, I could do this all day and it still would not look as smooth and beautiful as this photograph, but I'm just trying to get the impression of what I see in this photograph down onto paper, and I can put a little my own interpretation down, like the contours of this grass here, and it might look more interesting in a way than this beautiful photograph, because that's the interpretation that the artist does that makes it so much fun, and it can make it fun to look at too. See, in this photo, this is all very smooth, and yet you see the edge of the grass. I did the same thing, but I think I'll leave some of the whiteness in there just to show that there's a little different style. And some details down here. There's some more of that rough, wild grass and painful brush. That really must not bother the horse at all, that thick leather skin they have. Or is it skin or hide, horse hide? Yeah, yet these trees back here look so nice and calm and soft. Kind of a crosshatch, but really wide stroke, or not a stroke, but wide nib or brush width. Well, I think I have the gist of this photo pretty much down. It's obvious that this is a cowboy with this cowboy hat. It's obvious he has a lasso and he's going after something, he and his horse. Just eyeing it, I now see that this space under his arm, see how hard it is to erase that? Hope I didn't mess things up. But this needs to be white. There we go. I don't want to damage the paper. But that does come up a little higher. There's always corrections that can be made. And I probably didn't need to do this at all. Probably not even going to look that much different. But it's fun to draw horses and riders, so I thought I'd do that today. Try to get this a little cleaner edges. They're nice. I'll sign it. See how it looks compared to the original. It's not perfect, is it? Needs to be a little more shadow on his body. Yeah, that looks better. Well, I tried to do this as accurately as I could to try to faithfully reproduce the same image that's in the photograph. Like I said, it's not perfect, but let me look again. It's far from being as good as the photograph. But it is what it is, and I think a person can see it, basically see about the same thing.